Hello, everyone, and welcome to Blind Buys, a podcast where we watch and discuss movies we've bought sight unseen. I'm Jesse, and with me, as always, is my collector in crime, Josh.
Hey, thanks for joining us for our sixth episode where we will be discussing Jesse's blind buy pick, Night of the Juggler. This is a really fun one, so I can't wait to talk about it. But first up, Jesse, how you been? How's life?
I've been doing well. It's been a really fun time to be a movie person recently. I mean, we got the Oscars just happened, which is slightly outside the purview of what we talk about, but still was a fun time and definitely affected my watching. I did some catch up on some Oscar stuff, but out in the real world, I got to visit a new physical media shop here in the Seattle area that I heard about from a person sort of connected to the movie community here in the city. The spot called the Tomb of Treasure. And
Ooh.
it's this, it's this little storefront down in the south end of the city, which is probably good because I'm just north of Seattle. This is like in the south of Seattle. If it was any closer, it would be very tempting for me to go there all the time. But it's this little hole in the wall that's just its purview is horror. So it's got a wall of old VHS tapes. They buy and sell VHS tapes of a lot of the usual suspects that you'd hope to see in a shop like that. But then they've also got a sort of limited selection of new release Blu-rays and 4Ks from boutiques and elsewhere, and then they've got like toys from NECA and other places if you like having little, as I sort of do, little doodads and knickknacks to have on your shelf. Yeah, a lot of fun stuff. Trading cards. You go in there and there's like there's a movie playing up on a CRT. And I went in on Friday the 13th, and of course they had I forget which Friday the 13th they had playing, but they also had 13% off everything, so that was fun.
I love it.
Yeah, it was really great. So it was great to get in there. It's cool that there aren't many that, I mean, the Scarecrow's here, which I've talked about, and they do some sales, but it's nice that there's some other physical media shops opening up, and one that's devoted to horror. I love genre movies, so happy to go down there and check them out. I did pick up a copy of Umbrella's 4K of a movie called Salute of the Juggler, or The Blood of Heroes. It's a movie from the 80s.
Know anything about that?
Oh, it's a good one. It's this post-apocalyptic movie from the 80s starring Rutger Hauer and Joan Chen.
Okay.
As these two people who play this sport that is sort of like rugby, but you play it with like a dead wolf head. And other people, you're trying to like sort of get this wolf's head across to score a goal or something like that, or put it on a post, I forget which. But then there's also people on the team have chains that they swing around, and it looks like Mad Max. It's like Mad Max mixed with a sports movie, but there's like political stuff because all the regions of this post-apocalyptic hellscape have teams of these juggers who go around and compete in trying to get up to some big tournament, and it's really wild because you see a lot of them playing this sport that I believe is called Juggler, or the people who play it are called juggers. And Rutger Hauer is like the lead of the team, and Joan Chen is on the team with him. And this is like, pre-Twin Peaks Joan Chen. So this is like real, like primetime Joan Chen. It's a wild movie that I had heard about on the Pure Cinema podcast.
Sounds about right.
I think it was like a fantasy. It was like they were doing a slate of fantasy sci-fi picks, and that was one of them. And I watched it some months ago, and then not long after that, Umbrella announced a 4K, and so it was fun to pick it up from a local shop. So highly recommend checking that out. Salute to the Juggler.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on Letterboxd. I mean, this looks right up my alley. Delroy Lindo is in this?
Yes. How could I forget? Yeah, he's on the team. He's on the team with Joan Chen and Rutger Hauer. Now I think of it, I feel like there's a couple of other people who are in there on the team too.
Yeah, it looks like Vincent D'Onofrio's in this.
Yes, very like baby Vincent D'Onofrio. Yes, like well before even Men in Black and all that stuff. He was like, he wasn't anybody yet. So it's kind of a team of all-stars they have there.
It looks like this is the only film that this director made. David Webb Peoples. I'm seeing he's only credited with making one other short film about two guys on their way to an anti-Vietnam War rally.
Yeah, it's always fascinating when it's like this is one of their only movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was fun. And I also picked up on VHS. They had a copy of Ed Wood's Bride of the Monster, which I've never seen, and so that felt like a fun one to have on a VHS tape. So I got that. But yeah, so Tomb of Treasure. If you're in the Seattle area, check them out. Highly recommend. A neat little shop. So,
Nice.
what about you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I had a pretty similar last couple of days trying to do Oscars catch up. There were a couple of the Best Picture nominees that I hadn't seen yet, so I was able to fit in The Secret Agent, Hamnet, Sentimental Value, and Train Dreams before the
Wow.
ceremony. Um, yeah, and I really enjoyed Sentimental Value. I like that a lot. Train Dreams, I was really taken with. It just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks
Mm-hmm.
because I was watching it real early in the morning. I was the only one awake with the baby, so it was pretty emotional watching that and just seeing how time
Mm-hmm.
passes and how one person's life seems so insignificant, but it's like when you're going through it, it's all that matters to you. It was just really cool to watch. Also, just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful
Yeah.
film.
We could have seen they played it on the big Cinerama screen here for sort of like a Northwest premiere, which we weren't able to make it there, and I was really kind of upset about that. I watched it on Netflix, along with
Hmm.
as most people did, but I was like, why can't I see this on the biggest screen possible? Why is it not easier for a movie
Yeah.
like this? But yeah, really beautiful, shot all digitally too, which I wouldn't have guessed.
No, I wouldn't have guessed that
Yeah,
either. I was definitely assuming that it was all on film or something like that. But yeah, I think out of any of these Best Picture nominees that haven't gotten a physical release, I think Train Dreams would be my pick to get like the big Criterion release or whatever. I know Sentimental Value got one, but
and K-pop
Train
Demon
Dreams needs
Hunters.
it.
Yep.
Yes, that's true. K-pop
Yep.
Demon
So
Hunters.
I think that I could see them doing it for this film, which I really hope they do. Yeah, I managed to catch all the rest of the all 10 Best Picture noms before the day. Also, The Secret Agent was my last catch up, which I
Hmm.
really I liked it a lot. And the more I think about it, it's kind of creeping up my rankings for the year. It's like deep in my top
Yeah.
10.
I did want to ask you that because it took me, I think, probably two tries to finish it, and then at the end of it I was just kind of like, huh, okay, well, I saw it, and I didn't really think much more about it. And then I was doing like some additional reading about like the symbolism of the hairy leg
Yes.
and all of that stuff. And I was like, oh wow, if I had known this going in, like I would have had such a great viewing experience. But obviously, like I didn't know any of that stuff beforehand, so I was like, oh, this is such a weird swing for this to take, and it didn't really work for me, at least on my first watch.
Yeah, that went way over my head either, or also, but I've definitely listened to a few podcasts talk about it and gave the context for that particular metaphor or whatever you want to call it, which is a very like historical thing from Recife that the
Mm-hmm.
director experienced as a kid. Not that he saw that happen, but it was like in the news and it's a whole thing. So it was a good object lesson of that, like, movies that are made for us here that we love and appreciate are don't always go, things that we see in movies in the United States probably go over people's heads, and that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make the movies any better or worse. It's just context that I didn't have, and so now I'm glad to have that and to have learned about it. But I definitely want to see it again because it's very not dense, but it's like the way it's structured, all the different characters, the stuff it's doing with different genres. I think the more I sat and thought about it, the more it kind of made sense to me what they were doing, and I was really kind of like hit with kind of the scope of it. Even though it feels like
Mm-hmm.
kind of a small story, there's a lot going on, and it's trying to say a lot about history and politics and stuff. So I was
Yeah.
definitely glad to catch up with that. I'm glad it got the recognition that it did, even though it didn't win anything. I just feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's worth even the fact that they were given space in major categories outside of the sort of ghetto of best international feature.
Yeah.
Was glad to see it for sure.
Yeah.
I also did I also did two Friday the 13th movies for Friday the 13th that I hadn't
Nice.
seen before. I did part 3 and the fourth one, which is the final chapter. And I just had a fantastic time with both of those, even though I
Yes.
didn't care for part 3 quite so much. But since the first 4 are sort of supposed to kind of roll right into each other, more or less, it was good to watch those 2 back to back. But yeah, the final chapter just to me was sort of like now like feels like the paradigmatic slasher of that type. If you're not going to go for like the kind of more dour Halloween feel, I had a great time with it. So glad to catch up with those.
Part 3 has been my favorite for quite some time, ever since I did my full Friday the 13th franchise watch through. But I think it's mainly because the score just is so good for part 3. Like the opening credits score that's like weird synth disco flavor. I love it so much.
And of course, then you appeared on our beloved 70 millimeter Rejected podcast talking about part 2, was it? I think.
Yes, yeah. It was me, Anagul, Kev, and Clarence. We all talked about Friday the 13th Part 2 and had a really great conversation. And Part 2 definitely did grow on me after watching it again. But yeah, Part 3's been my favorite, and it still is. But yeah,
Nice.
I rewatched Part 3 as well for Friday the 13th, and before that, I did a little like an impromptu double feature of two slashers set in gyms. I watched Death Spa and Killer Workout back to back, and totally unintentional, but a fantastic pairing. Lots of aerobics, lots of bright 80s neon exercise outfits, lots of kills that probably should have been better than they were, but were still a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm really getting some use out of Tubi while I'm up late. So
yeah. I've seen Death Spa, and I remember having a great time with that. Yeah, I haven't seen the other one though. So check that out.
Yeah, my favorite thing in Death Spa is that the name of the spa is I don't remember the full name of it, but like at the beginning, the lights on the sign flicker, and it makes the title Death Spa. And I was like, when that happened, I was like, yeah, this is that kind of movie. I got it.
Tells you exactly what you're in for. Yeah.
Yep.
The last one I'll highlight, I went to an employee at Scarecrow runs this sort of pop-up program that had been out of commission for a little while they were looking for a new space because the theater where it used to run regularly has been closed, but it's called VHS Uber Alles, and it's a series that highlights things that still are only available on VHS as far as physical media goes, if you're not going to watch a rip of some kind on YouTube or elsewhere. And this was Back in Action, which is a Billy Blanks, the second of 2 Billy Blanks and Rowdy Piper star vehicles.
I don't know anything about this.
Oh, well, did you watch the Bat and Spider? So a few months ago, our friends at Bat and Spider covered the other one that the 2 of them did together, Tough and Deadly.
No,
the other Billy
didn't
Blanks
watch that one.
Oh, you should go and you got to check it out. This is just big, dumb action, like 90s action of the best kind. Billy Blanks being the guy who created Tybo. Does that mean anything to you, Tybo? Do you know what that is?
No, unfortunately.
See, Josh is a good deal younger than I am. Tybo was a fitness craze from the 90s, created by this guy Billy Blanks, who's jacked. I don't think he got jacked doing Tybo, but it's sort of a mix. He was a martial artist. It was a mix between, the name comes from Taekwondo and boxing, and it was sort of like basically aerobics that looks like you're doing kicks and things. Mm-hmm. But in these movies, Billy Blanks just performs dozens upon dozens of roundhouse and spinning kicks on guys, drug smugglers and things like that. And Rowdy Piper is blowing people away with guns and screaming obscenities. And so it was this pop-up at this little theater in the south of the city with just a bunch of freaks who like to watch cheesy action movies like this. And so it was a really great time, lots of laughs. The movie itself is fine, but yeah, you get to watch a lot of things get blown up. Billy Blanks does some fights in his underwear, which is great to watch. So yeah, I hope to start attending more of these VHS screenings. And we watched it on VHS too, which it looked like crap, but that's what it's about.
It's only movies released on VHS. Like, what kind of a screen are we watching? Is it getting projected somehow, like being played off a VHS tape, or are you just watching it on a giant, like, old CRT?
No,
something like that.
it was projected, but the projection or the projectionist, the guy who runs the theater was running the theater that night said this was the first time they had played a VHS at this particular theater. You know, it was it's not a big theater, so it was projected on a screen that was probably a little too big for VHS, and a lot of the movie takes place at night, so it's, sometimes you're squinting and what am I even watching here?
Yeah.
But you know you're able to track the action well enough. So that was
Okay.
back in action with Billy Blanks and Roddy Piper. Check it out. Vinegar Syndrome started putting out some of these Billy Blanks movies. Now I have to satisfy my curiosity, and since
Yeah,
it can
I'm looking.
segue us into the next part of what we usually talk about here. Let me just check and see. Oh yeah, so they don't have that one, but oh man, some of these other ones they've got from Billy Blanks: Talons of the Eagle, Expect No Mercy, American Expendables, TC 2000, which looks like some kind of a,
Is that a
I don't
Terminator
know.
ripoff?
It looks like a Terminator ripoff. If you enjoy this type of movie, it's a good time.
I'm gonna check out at least one of these that he's in before I, go all in and buy several of them.
Oh yeah, I would say check them. They'll be on Tubi or YouTube, and
Yeah.
especially in your situation where you are up late feeding a baby and you just need something that demands very little of your brain and will be fun to watch.
Yeah.
These might fit the bill.
Well, I guess we could go ahead and transition to our usual discussion of upcoming physical media releases, if that's good with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's see. Right off the bat, we've got June announcements from Criterion. We have Stanley Donen's Charade, which is getting upgraded to 4K. That's Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn, which I watched for the first time this past year and really enjoyed. We've got Med Hondo's West Indies, The Fugitive Slaves of Liberty, Lisa Cholodenko's High Art. We have two John Waters films in 4K, his Hairspray and then Desperate Living. And then Jafar Panahi's It Was Just an Accident. And also coming from the Eclipse series, we've got Carlos Sora's Flamenco trilogy, which was previously only released on DVD. And then under Criterion Premieres, we have the film Magellan by Lav Diaz, starring Gael Garcia Bernal.
Which is crazy because I feel like it didn't even play here. It probably played at SIFF, for a week or something, but I don't know that there was even a chance for me to watch this in a theater. But I heard really great things about it.
Yeah, it's 163 minutes. Wow, that much longer than I.
And I mean, I
thought.
think they did a lot of filming on like an actual ship at sail, like at
Oh.
sea. It looked like a lot of it looked very real. So, but I heard good things about it. Yeah, but I definitely want to. I'll check that out. I don't know if I'll buy it. I don't know if I'll be a blind buy.
Yep. Out of this bunch, I think I'm probably gonna get at least Hairspray, if not also Desperate Living, these two John Waters films. I've got a couple of his from the collection already. Really enjoy his movies. I think Serial Mom is my favorite, which is a little bit outside of his, like trilogy of bad taste and all of that, the movie starring Divine and whatnot. But I really enjoy his Hairspray. I think it actually... Surprisingly, the musical version of Hairspray follows the story of the original film way closer than I was expecting. So I really enjoy that one. Desperate Living is one of his big trash bad taste movies, so I'll probably check that one out as well.
Yeah, I love John Waters. I have not seen Hairspray. Desperate Living, I've been waiting, I think, for just a better release. A Scarecrow has a DVD, but I think I was waiting for something that looks a little bit better. And this cover art is just incredible. It's like a dead rat on a dinner plate.
Yep.
With a beautiful place setting. Yeah, I'm all in. And this is still like back in the Edith Massey era when she was still playing around with all the rest of his Dreamland people. Mm-hmm. So I'm very excited to check this out, and I would probably pick that up sight unseen for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I also forgot to mention 5 Easy Pieces, starring Jack Nicholson. Right. That one's coming out.
Yeah, I've got that out of the BBS box set. I believe that it's called the...
Oh, yeah. Is that the one that also has, like, Last Picture Show, all of that?
Yes, and King of Marvin Gardens, I believe, some of those other movies, that those guys were making back then. Yeah, so I don't think I'll upgrade that, but definitely worth picking up if you don't have that box. It's a foundational new Hollywood film for sure. I love Charade. I don't have it yet, so that's one I'd probably pick up. This West Indies looks incredible. Just reading about it and seeing a couple of stills, it's like an African musical, basically about colonialism and all sorts of other things. It looks fascinating. So it's really great that and I've never even heard of it before. So it's the kind of thing that I'm grateful that Criterion continues to do and to highlight.
Yeah, I was reading the synopsis for this. It was reminding me of, it was a movie that came out maybe in 2022. It was an African film that was kind of futuristic. It was a musical.
Neptune.
Yes, Neptune Frost.
Neptune Frost. Yes, I watched that in typical fashion. I started it kind of too late and probably dozed off a couple of times. No fault of the movies. It was totally me and how tired I was. But it was kind of like I would wake up and I'd be like, "What am I looking at? What's happening?"
Yep.
But it was a mesmerizing experience. It kind of feels like some of these movies are kind of made in a different mode of, or from a different frame of mind than what I'm used to, which is what I like about them. So it's kind of, doing something different with music and narrative coming from a completely different cultural lens. So I'm all about it. I can't wait to see this.
And then High Art stars Ali Sheedy, which it looks interesting. I mean, it looks like it's set in the New York art scene with Sheedy's character as a photographer. It says retreating into a life of heroin abuse with her faded actress lover, played by Patricia Clarkson. So this looks really interesting. I've never heard of this before, but I'm intrigued enough to maybe go in on this as a blind buy.
Yeah, I've heard of this movie before. I have not seen it, but I'm definitely always down to see what the Brat Pack people did after. And I feel like Ali Sheedy was one of those people who was kind of done dirty by those movies in a way, as much as I enjoy. I mean, I love The Breakfast Club, but I think, she was maybe the most interesting character in the movie. And then the ending kind of, pretties her up and in a way that kind of is, in retrospect, kind of upsetting once you get older and think about what it's really saying. So I'm definitely down to see some more of her work that I haven't seen before.
Yep.
Yeah, good slate.
Radiance did put out some June announcements. Of course, these are all movies, as tend to happen with Radiance releases, movies that I've never heard of but are extremely intriguing. Let's see here. We've got a movie called The Pornographers in 4K, a movie called Solo, which is on Blu-ray, Warm Water Under a Red Bridge, also a Blu-ray, and then La Tête contre les Murs.
Close enough.
Yeah, also a Blu-ray. I think I'm most interested in The Pornographers. The synopsis for this one is: a former Buddhist monk turned erotic filmmaker, Sabuyan lives with hairdresser Haru and her 2 teenage children. Shooting 2 skin flicks per day, he somehow manages to stay out of the clutches of the Yakuza. But real trouble starts when Haru discovers him lusting after her daughter. So, yeah, 1960s Japan looks really interesting, and I'm sure the transfer of this is fantastic and full of good features and stuff. So
that and Warm Water Under a Red Bridge are both Shohei Imamura films, and I've not seen any of his work, but he's a name that I definitely recognize. So I would definitely check those out. This Solo, directed by Jean-Pierre Macchi, he directed Litan, which is a movie out of the second volume of the Severin folk horror box.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, a very weird French folk horror film, Litan. So I'm interested in this just knowing that guy was involved, because that was a fascinating movie that I watched, I think, last Halloween. So, a womanizing violinist and jewel thief must abandon his carefree lifestyle when he learns that his younger brother is part of the leftist revolutionary group responsible for the brutal murders of powerful men. So yeah, it sounds like more of this sort of, crime films of, that's like one of their big buckets, Radiance, like crime films from Italy, Japan, France, wherever. So this sounds like another just gem from that period, kind of going off the gritty new Hollywood era, their take on it. So I'm definitely interested in this.
Yeah, seeing this described as like satirical crime drama, like feelings of delusionment about like the government and stuff like that, it's kind of giving me a reminder of like Cutter's Way or something like that.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is coming to 4K as well, and my pre-order is in. And I put it in with a bunch of other stuff that was getting pre-ordered, so it's not going to get to me for a while. But
yeah,
I'm going to get it eventually.
Yeah, I can't. I probably said it here last time or whatever it came up, but I've got the Fun City Editions Blu-ray, which looks great. So I'm happy to stick with that and continue the support of Fun City. But it is weird how more and more of their titles are getting plucked out for 4K. Granted that this is like a region B release, but it kind of keeps happening. A few different
Yeah.
labels have done this, but that's what happens. That's how it goes.
All right. Vinegar Syndrome did some Friday the 13th releases this month. Just 2 films. One is Intensive Care, and the other is Unmasked Part 25. Intensive Care is under the Vinegar Syndrome Labs sublabel, and this is being billed as the first and only Dutch horror film directed by a woman to date. And this comes to us from the year 1991. So, Dutch film industry, what's going on? Why haven't there been more? That's the question they need to answer.
I don't know. Yeah, it's Vinegar Syndrome, and then they also have this banner up on top next to the intensive care pre-order. Something macabre is coming. A special flash preview title arrives. They just keep dropping these random titles like outside of their normal release window. I feel like
Yeah.
it's just yet another thing that they are doing to collectors to get them to spend money outside of the normal windows of when they expect, like, oh, the first of the month's coming, Vinegar Syndrome, but now it's like, oh, here's some special weird drop that's coming. So I'm of course excited to see what it is, but
Right. And sucker that I am, if I read the synopsis and the cover art looks cool or whatever, we'll see if I end up adding it to my cart. But yeah, what even is the point of releasing something on March 19th? I get Friday the 13th, but yeah, what's so special? I don't know.
yeah, flash preview, and I don't know if that's like I don't know what that means. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll report back after it comes out on our next episode. This Unmasked Part 25, never heard of before. The title is crazy, but it seems like a horror comedy satire of your Friday the 13th and Halloweens and things, with a slasher villain falling in love for the first time.
Yeah, it sounds like a scary movie like 15 years before Scary Movie.
So I wanted to run this one by you because this one appeared in one of the Discords, whether it was Bat and Spider or 70 millimeter, but this Akira Kurosawa 4K collection from Madman, it's going for $200 right now on pre-order, but it's got 8 of Kurosawa's films on 4K, including several of the ones that Criterion has put out in 4K, like Yojimbo and Sanjuro, and recently High and Low, Seven Samurai. But Throne of Blood and The Hidden Fortress and Red Beard, I'm not sure if those had 4K releases before, but
not from Criterion. I don't think so. No.
Yeah, this box set looks humongous, though.
I was going to say, it even says, like, this is a delicate and very heavy item. To protect it and other products, we will not ship this with other items. This is from Orbit, so it looks like a big wooden box that holds the discs.
Like,
yeah.
The packaging is such that, like, I couldn't see myself actually being able to store this anywhere, and therefore I probably would not consider buying this at all. But
it also includes a documentary called Akira Kurosawa, It Is Wonderful to Create, which is has a bunch of, produced by Toho for maybe even just for this re-release of the films behind the scenes. Yeah, and the thing with me in the Kurosawa 4K is I don't own any of his film. I had Seven Samurai on Criterion DVD from years and years ago, but I haven't upgraded anything. I haven't bought any new ones because I keep hoping that Criterion would do what they did for Fellini and Bergman, which were sort of like back when they started, back when Janus started, the sort of the 3 pillars that they brought to American cinemas to distribute were Bergman, Fellini, and Kurosawa. And they've done big boxes and Blu-ray for 2 of those guys. But there was a Kurosawa box set from Criterion years ago that was DVD, but they have not reissued that. So I've been hoping that they would do a 4K box set for him, but they keep releasing upgrades of 4K of the individual titles. So I keep thinking that maybe the ship has sailed, because they've sort of gone away from doing those big director boxes, even though I know they just did it for Wes Anderson, but for a while there was like every year there was like a big one that would drop kind of around the holidays. So I keep holding out hoping that Criterion would do that for Kurosawa, but I don't know, it might not happen.
Yeah. Well, and they did the My Beloved Jacques Tati set as well on Blu-ray, and then lo and behold, they released Playtime on 4K. So now I'm like, eventually, is that whole box set gonna get upgraded to 4K? We'll see. And then at last, Kino Lorber announced they're putting out Harry and the Hendersons and The Great Indoors on 4K. Great Indoors. I mean, I'm interested in picking that one up for sure. Harry and the Hendersons. I don't know. We'll see. I've only seen it once.
Oh, I grew up watching that movie, so I'm definitely getting that. I love
Yeah.
that movie. And the house, I used to live very close to the house where that was set
Oh,
here
really?
in Seattle. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a Seattle movie. And also, they haven't announced it yet, but Deaf Crocodile is going to be launching a Kickstarter soon.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
mentioned it on that it's coming on their social media for, I think it looks like it's a Mexican animated sci-fi film called Roy del Espacio or del Espacio. Yeah. And I mean, this is just kind of like par for the course, them digging up some wild animated film that I've never heard of. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what the Kickstarter for that looks like. I've supported a couple of their Kickstarters in the past, so they usually do a pretty good job with those.
Yeah. What do the rewards typically look like for their Kickstarter campaigns?
The two that I've done, I did the Pied Piper, and this was before they re-released the Pied Piper with some more of Yuri Barta's shorts on it.
Mm-hmm.
But when they put it out the first time, this was sort of when they were still kind of pretty small. They you got a special edition slipcover with special artwork on it. So I do have that,
Nice.
at least. I got the special slip that looks really cool. And the other one was this Alexander Pchushko. It's kind of like Russian fantasy films. So it was a neat box for the 4 films that they put out from this Russian director of these massive epic films of like sort of like their versions of Excalibur or Ben-Hur, but set in like in the Russian past. So yeah, the rewards are usually pretty neat.
Cool. They also posted the other day that there's a flash sale happening this Saturday. So that's
There's always a
dangerous.
sale. There's always a sale.
So yeah, that's the end of our list of things that have been announced recently. So we're gonna go ahead and move into the bottom of the hour, our discussion of the 1980 film Night of the Juggler. Jesse, you've got the synopsis for us?
A young girl is kidnapped in broad daylight in Central Park by a murderous psychopath who plans to demand a huge ransom for her return, mistakenly believing her father is a wealthy property developer. Unfortunately for him, she's actually the daughter of Sean Boyd, a devoted dad and grizzled ex-cop who will stop at absolutely nothing to get her back, even if it means running through the kidnapper, his enemies in the NYPD, and the entire scuzzy underworld populating the mean streets of 1970s New York. Night of the Juggler.
All right. So this is the inaugural release from Transmission, which is a sublabel of Radiance Films. I know this was a blind buy for you. What made you pick this up?
This is a movie that, I mean, I think this would have been one for me anyway, because this is just real. I have a whole Fun City tag on Letterboxd, not for Fun City so I also have a Fun City Editions tag for when I watch those films from that label, but just Fun City, because Fun City is sort of the moniker that was given to the sort of New York of the late 60s through the 80s, when they were trying to say it was like a fun, like I think it was Mayor John Lindsay who kind of referred to it as Fun City to kind of like promote the city as a fun place, a safe place, when it was sort of starting to lose its reputation as and thought of kind of more of a dirty and dangerous place. But these movies that are shot on the streets of New York before the mid 90s, before things got sanitized and it got too expensive to shoot things there. Yeah, anything that features even a little bit of that is like something that I want to see, having grown up near the city and gone to school there. But also the guys on the Pure Cinema podcast, Elric Kane and Brian Sauer, this is a movie they would always talk about for the last several years, probably since they started the podcast, because until I think Radiance and Kino put out these restorations, this was pretty hard to see, and or at least very underseen. And if you even just look at the box office, it made like $54,000, it says, on a $6.5 million budget. So that's a big bomb.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So it doesn't seem like it sounds like it wasn't even seen much in its time.
Yeah, well, we can talk about it during the bonus features and stuff, but even like Julie Carmen, who plays Maria in the film, was like, I shot the film and then I don't remember a release. I don't remember ever hearing about it.
Hmm.
For decades, I never saw it. And then she even missed it when it played at the New Beverly, like a
Right.
rare
Yeah.
35
Yeah. I
millimeter
watched that.
print.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, this would have been on my list even if I hadn't heard Elric and Brian talk about that. And so every time, some movie would come out that was anything vaguely gritty New York, they would sort of, this was the kind of their gold standard for that kind of movie. And the type of movie that they try to champion on that podcast as like, stuff that's underseen. Now it's probably going to be too big for them to ever really talk about again in that capacity. But so I was happy to catch up with it. And I mean, as far as New York stuff, we'll get into it. But this is like, I mean, they shot every inch of film seems to have been shot in the city, which is just incredible. So yeah. What about
Yeah.
you? Did you have any priors with the directors, or had you heard of this film before Transmission put it out?
I think I had heard them mention it on the Pure Cinema Pod once or twice. I'm not as dedicated of a listener of that show as I used to be, just because I don't have as much podcast listening time as I used to. But I definitely did hear about it there, and I really wanted to get this because it's the first one of this sublabel, and I wanted to kind of get in on the ground floor and see how many of these I could collect, because they all seem to be up my alley, at least the ones that they've mentioned so far. So that was the main reason, is and also just the presentation in the box set and all of the extras in here are just so
Yep.
nice, and it looks great on the shelf. So
Yeah, yeah, and most of Radiance's stuff is sort of focused on. I mean, they've done some partner label type stuff of American films, so to see them get into a kind of American genre film that's less seen was also of interest to me, since they just have such impeccable taste. As for the movie itself, you kind of jump in, you get a sort of a thumbnail sketch of the Sean Boyd, played by James Brolin, and who he is, what his kind of basic setup at the beginning of the movie is with his daughter. But within the first 10 minutes, you're just off to literally off to the races.
oh yeah.
And the movie doesn't really, it never really slows down.
Yeah, I was blown away by the pace of this movie. Like it felt like it was going by so fast, but not in a way that I felt like I was missing out on anything. The plot's not all that heavy or anything, so there's just so much room for these action sequences to unfold, and then once they get going, they just go and go and go, and especially the first one, like the extended like foot car chase sequence when Sean Boyd's daughter initially gets kidnapped. That sequence must have been extremely complicated to shoot, and is just like a tour de force of action filmmaking. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, there's a lot of people draw comparisons to like the French Connection, obviously. I also thought of, have you heard of a movie called The Seven Ups?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you got to check that out. That's another movie from the mid 70s that features just a really outrageous car chase through Manhattan that I can't remember if they got permission to do what they did or not. Like the French Connection, I think was all stolen footage basically. But this, I think they definitely had permits and whatnot, because some of the action and some of the collisions, they're racing through Central Park, which you never see.
I had to, like, when I was watching the movie, I had to stop and be like, how much of this was like filmed legally? Did people die during the production of this movie? Because it really seems like it's stolen footage, like not in a bad way, but it's just like they were just grabbing what they could, and they nailed like the gritty, like down and dirty action vibes here, set in New York City.
Yeah, one of the quotes I wrote down from, I think it was one of the first lines from the incredible Richard Castellano, who most people will recognize as Peter Clemenza from The Godfather.
Yeah.
Just like an absolute New York character actor legend. He plays the less dirty of the cop, probably the least dirty cop that we meet in the film, Lieutenant Tonelli. Early on in the movie, he says, "I got a feeling it's going to be another goddamn New York day." And that to me just kind of really captured the feeling that I mean, I grew up near New York City. I'm not like I wouldn't call myself a New Yorker in terms of someone who grew up in New York City by any stretch of the imagination, but they really captured the kind of love-hate relationship that people from New York seem to have with the city of like, living here is so goddamn hard, but I also wouldn't, this is where I want to be. This is just the place that makes sense for me. Even just in the way that Boyd's character talks about, we meet in one scene, his ex-wife comes to the police station to sort of get briefed on what happened to their daughter, and the two of them are divorced, and she's living, I think, in the Connecticut suburbs or something, and it sounds like she's got money from her dad or something, and she's like, why? She's kind of giving him the business about why she's kind of pinning the whole situation on him, and that he insisted on their daughter living with him in the city, and he's just like, she wants to be in New York. She doesn't want to be out in the suburbs. So that, yeah, just that feeling that, it's a hard place, but it's a good place was really captured.
Was it at the beginning when Sean was getting the hot dogs for his daughter's birthday, which we're going to talk about that. It's just a wild choice. But the guy's like reading the newspaper and he's like, yeah, 100,000 people left New York last month. I don't know why they'd ever want to do that. But
yep.
Yeah, that struck me as like, okay, so we're judging people who are leaving New York, but also complaining about how it sucks to live in New York. That just feels like the quintessential New York like opinion, of what it feels like to be in the city, like to live in the city and be a true New Yorker.
Yeah, and we sort of go on the tour of like, I mean, just the locations. There's obviously the 42nd Street porno theater, peep show sequences showing the kind of the heyday of that part of the city and how seedy and colorful it was, but also the kind of the urban blight up in the Bronx when they were just kind of leveling buildings left and right, trying to, destroying these neighborhoods where, black and brown people were living. And that's kind of central to the plot, because the kidnapper is just goes on these racist tirades against the people who he thinks are to blame for, what's happening to his neighborhood, quote unquote. Yeah, and I also really liked, kind of as the counterpoint to that, though, the gypsy cab driver, the black woman who picks them up. So later on in the movie, they're sort of pursued by this Puerto Rican gang who are upset over what, is perceived as sort of like, taking one of the women from the neighborhood. And James Brolin expresses this sort of, he doesn't really understand why this is happening. And he says, like, what's the matter with these people anyway? And the gypsy cab driver says, well, basically, when white people come up here, you're either the welfare or the credit man or a cop. Like, what else does a white man come around here asking questions for? If you push too hard, people are going to push back. So I felt like that was a really kind of a key thing for them to include, to kind of show, like, the other half of the picture. Like, this isn't just like a dirty or dangerous place. There are real people who live here who are having real problems caused by people who look like you. So I felt like that kind of set this apart from kind of standard grindhouse fare from the time.
Yeah, and we even get a little bit into like the details of the police corruption that's happening. Like at the time, the Sean Boyd character left the force after exposing police corruption, and then he meets one of his old colleagues who's still on the force but got, pushed around precincts and stuff because he was part of the whole scandal. So
an absolutely unhinged Dan Hedaya.
Yes, we have got to talk about that whole showdown that happens, but the inclusion of that, and then what you were talking about kind of like the racial tension at the time, and also dealing with like the leveling of the neighborhoods in the Bronx and all of that stuff, definitely gives this more of a political bent than several other like thrillers that I've seen come out of this time period.
Yeah, and that was something that Julie Carmen talked about in the interview, that she felt it was important for her character to be included as like kind of a counterweight to the kind of scary Puerto Rican gangs, to show that there's like, there are lots of different types of people lived in this part of the city. And she even said, like, even though it wasn't necessarily part of the text of the movie, but she said, like, well, I grew up in the city, and I never felt like it was a dangerous place. Like, this was just where I lived. So I felt like she was having her, even though she's kind of a thinly written character, I guess, we don't know much about her other than the fact that she works at the dog pound or the for the city animal control sort of board, and like feels moved to help him because of his plight with wanting to help his daughter. But yeah, I thought she was great. A great addition to the movie for sure.
Yeah. I definitely think we should talk about the set pieces, but I do want to talk a little bit more first about Lieutenant Tonelli, played by Richard Castellano. He has got the best subplot in the movie, in my opinion, because every time we see him, he is always dealing with something about his daughter's wedding or something about his family, like when they have to test the bugging of the phone in the apartment of the rich family whose daughter was supposed to have been taken but was not. He like calls his wife or whatever and has to give an update on the wedding, and then he's like, yeah, people are listening. No, we can't talk about this right now. I thought that was so funny. And the fact that it like kept recurring and the bits kept like building on each other, I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised to look at his filmography and see how few movies he appeared in, but I guess he was a stage actor, and may have even been sort of like one of the early sort of method people on stage, possibly. I think it's possible that he was working on some kind of a book about the method with his wife when he died. He's passed away, in his 50s, sadly. But yeah, I feel like he just brought a lot more to that character than like was in any way needed by the story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just his face like kind of tells 1,000 stories, like that dude's face, and the sort of the gravel in his voice. But I really liked the relationship between him and Boyd, as sort of like he goes out of his way a couple of times to kind of get him out of these scrapes that he keeps. Because I mean, in the opening set piece, he should instantly be in prison for the rest of his life, probably for the things that he does in the opening chase.
Yes.
And later,
yes.
But Tonelli really kind of sees especially once he has maybe the first or second phone call with the psycho who lives up in who's abducted the daughter, and he realizes what's happened, and then like, oh yeah, he really does have a kid, and it's Boyd's kid. From then on, it's kind of like, we're gonna do what we have to do. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, you can tell that he's kind of knows that this guy was one of the good ones, so to speak, and he's just kind of in a hard way. But yeah, you can kind of hear him growing a new ulcer every time something new happens with Boyd and all the trouble he's causing this poor lieutenant.
Yeah. And I love the scene of him in the froyo shop, which
oh my god. That might be the funniest part of the movie. Yes.
Yeah. He's.
I almost don't want to spoil it for people, but yeah, there's response to when he learns what frozen yogurt is made out of, or how they describe it, was really, really funny. Yes.
Yes, and even that ties into the whole thing about his daughter's wedding, because his daughter's fiance wants to open a froyo shop, and so he's going to try it out and see if it's worth the investment.
So funny.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, yeah, this movie is just full of just incredible character actors. One of the first, Mandy Patinkin.
Yes, he was playing the Puerto Rican cab driver, right?
Yes, Mandy Patinkin, famously not Puerto Rican,
right?
shows up as like sort of like at the very beginning of this incredible chase. He's like his cab gets hit by the kidnapper, and he's furious. But then like James Brolin says, he's got my daughter in there, and he's like, get in, we're gonna go get that pervert. He's like, I can catch anything with wheels on it. But then he goes on to make some jokes about Puerto Rican people that are, just have to say it, not appropriate. And just the fact that he's playing a Puerto Rican person, clearly that wouldn't be done now. But I appreciated the energy that he brought, and it's sort of like he's kind of the first real crazy character we meet, aside from Tonelli, I guess. So he sort of sets the tone for like the kinds of people that Boyd is going to encounter on this just wild journey that he goes through New York in search of his daughter.
Yeah, it's like the first encounter of his like personal odyssey, And to be honest, any of the characters that he encounters in this film would have made for great like second and third leads for the entire film. Like I can see a version of this where it's James Brolin and I guess Mandy Patinkin or someone else who is more appropriate to play that role.
Or
Being
or the stripper, like the stripper that he
yeah,
encounters, she could have been,
for the
who
entire
kind of,
film,
yeah.
like working together. The preacher that he picks
Oh
up
my God.
his car and steals, like that would have been a fantastic, like it would have been more of a buddy comedy action movie, more along the lines of that. But yeah, I think every single one of these characters that he encounters, they feel like close enough to fully realize that you get the sense that like these are characters who live like full lives, and if they were in the story longer, like we'd definitely spend more time with them and get to know them more, but could easily carry a lot of this movie on their shoulders, which is the
Yeah.
benefit of having such great character actors in a movie in the first place.
And I'm sure they've probably talked about it in some interview, but there's no way that this has not been like, you know, one of the most one of the Safdie brothers' most referenced films in terms of like this is also clearly what they're aiming for when they cast a movie like Marty Supreme or
Yeah.
Uncut Gems, which is just, you find the right person who can just show up with a certain look and a certain way of speaking that tells this whole story. And this is like really, if you like those types of movies, you got to see Night of the Juggler.
My favorite of those is definitely the street preacher that he whose car he steals. I thought that was just absolutely
Sucking on his
hilarious.
inhaler. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Oh, and apparently also, did you catch that? At the beginning of the chase, Boyd is basically hanging out of this car that's racing down the street at top speed. The stunt double that was doing that was like the actor C. Thomas Howell's dad.
Yes, he mentioned
Like-
that. James Brolin mentioned that in his behind the scenes interview.
Yeah,
That's
just
crazy.
wild. Yeah, really wild. So we should actually mention this. So the movie is directed. The credited director is Robert Butler, who is sort of a legend from TV, especially, but has directed a lot of things, a lot of movies. But the production started with Sidney J. Furie as the director, and he shot basically the first 30 minutes of this in sequence,
Right.
which is pretty incredible. It's not really something that anybody really does typically, but but that means like the first 30 or so minutes through the end of the chase are his work. But I felt like Butler did a really great job of I feel like if I didn't know that, I wouldn't guess that it was directed by two different people.
Yeah,
you did a couple of other great set pieces, like the Bryant Park shotgun shootout, the final set piece with in the steam tunnels. So it doesn't feel like, oh, suddenly the movie changes tone, 30 minutes in. So I thought it was a really remarkable job by a veteran director of like, he might have had a different style of how he did things, but he didn't seem to really try to make it his own thing once he took over.
Yeah, I agree. Like when going into this, I did not know that it was directed in parts by two different people, and I could not tell. From what it sounds like in the behind the scenes interviews in this release, I think the main difference was how the directors kind of handled, working with the actors. Sidney J. Furie, I think James Brolin calls him an enabler, basically just kind of letting the actors do their thing. Whereas Robert Butler is probably more structured and had more ideas of how things should go. But yeah, I think they bring similar sensibilities to the way they shoot the action. A lot of the car chase scenes, they just feel similar to like when the Dan Hedaya character catches up with Sean at the dog pound and he gets attacked by the Dobermans. He gets flipped over the fence and gets attacked by the Dobermans after that whole chase. They just feel very much of a piece. I wouldn't have known that they were directed by two different people.
Yeah. What did you make of the Gus Saltic, the antagonist, the madman? That's sort of the kicks off all the action.
The Gus character is creepy and kind of unhinged in a way that in Julie Carmen's interview, she was like that character is a precursor to like an on-screen Joker, like from the Batman comics. Yeah. Like, and you can really see it in his evil daffiness almost, and the way that he handles the young girl who he's kidnapped, which is just
it
absolutely
starts
gross. And
it starts with like sort of undertones of being really upsetting, and then it gets explicitly upsetting like toward the end, like in a way that was really uncomfortable. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's played by Cliff Gorman, who I feel like I've seen his face before, but not. I don't think I've actually seen anything that he's been in. But I thought he was great and very menacing, and he was giving a great like physical performance, especially when he was dragging around the girl across all the rubble and everything. But he's the kind of character that you know in his mind he's thinking that he's the main character, he's the vigilante, he's the one who the injustice has occurred to, and so he's going to set it to rights. And then we have the actual vigilante who injustice has occurred to in the Sean Boyd character, and so they're kind of opposed in this interesting way where one is the righteous vigilante and one thinks he's the righteous vigilante, and you're seeing the ways they go about trying to accomplish their separate goals. So I like that they're opposed in that way.
Yeah, and it still has that sort of 70s institutional pessimism of like he can't really rely on the cops to help him. He has to take matters into his own hands. And even when you see like when they're sort of setting up the big set piece to try to trap the kidnapper in the park at the end, there's that one cop who's sort of like almost like maybe he's like a SWAT team commander or something, who sounds like he's ready to just shoot anything that moves or something like that.
Yeah.
Remember that guy? Like you're like, well, these guys don't sound prepared or really like they have any constructive ideas on how to help. They just want to, they sound almost as crazy as the kidnapper. And he even like, and another thing that just came to me in terms of like kind of looking for help from outside of the sort of traditional institutional spots. The two most helpful people to him are, a stripper who happened to find this, piece of evidence and who hooks him back up with it when he goes to ask her questions. And then someone who works, for animal control. So kind of he gets help from two women who are pretty lowly stature, and they are kind of like the keys to him figuring out how to solve this mystery. So I thought that was pretty cool, even though they weren't maybe the strongest characters. I think it's kind of telling that those are the people who he ends up getting the most important pieces of help from.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But in terms of the Gus character being like the titular juggler, I guess, whose night it is, that part I thought was kind of silly, because he's talking about how all the rich people have juggled the books and it hasn't shaken out in his favor, and so tonight he's the one who's going to juggle the books. So I don't know if that necessarily tracks really well with like this being the title, Night of the Juggler. I think I was maybe expecting something more like serial killer-ish, and his name is the Juggler. But
yeah, it's an amazing title, but I was also
awesome
similarly title. I was similarly confused because I felt like they're gonna have to explain this in some way. Is he like the juggler? Like you're saying, is he the juggler killer or something like that? But since you mentioned it, this is an adaptation of a novel by William McGivern called Night of the Juggler. So I'm interested in the novel, but he also wrote, he wrote The Big Heat and Odds Against Tomorrow, which were both adapted into really, really great movies. The Big Heat, obviously, a Fritz Lang film. But yeah, Odds Against Tomorrow, I caught up with that a few years ago. Really great. It was right after Harry Belafonte died, because Harry Belafonte stars in that movie. Really great sort of movie about kind of crime and racial tension in New York. So this guy, he had it. Like, I'm curious I should actually start reading again and check out some of his novels, but they seem like they would be really kind of easy reads and fascinating to read.
Yeah, and with how action heavy this film is, I have to wonder how some of these set pieces, if they occurred in the novel, were written. I'm fascinated by authors who can write action as if it was happening in a movie, or like if they write in such a way that you can just so easily visualize what's happening and kind of keep up the pace, with the story in the way that they write it. And so I'd be curious to see how he did that. Is there a better title for this film though than Night at the Juggler? Like what do you think?
Oh man, what else could you call it? Let me see here. Yeah,
I mean,
I'd have to cook on that. Something like, what was his name? Boyd. I could see like Boyd's something or other. Boyd's payoff,
like
or
Rampage or something.
yeah,
Well,
that would work.
on the poster that's included in the transmission box set, the tagline is "In the heart of every victim is a hero, and he'll tear apart a city to prove it." So I wonder if maybe something along the lines of "Every victim a hero" or something like that.
Something like that. And I have to
Yeah,
say, I mean, the poster is just, I mean, this the poster I think that you most typically see for this movie is Brolin sort of like ripping the New York skyline apart, and he has this
yeah,
menacing look on his face. And I have to say, he just really, I mean, he's got some dialogue and whatnot, but I think it's almost like his physical energy really is really amazing, and like his look, which he sort of talked about, like he's got like this huge mane of hair in his beard, and just the way that he sort of looks when he's running, because he's very often running toward or away from somebody in this
yeah,
movie.
yep,
But he just brings this real great intensity that really works for this movie.
yeah.
As memorable as the character, like kind of the character actors surrounding him are, he's also, I felt like was a great star for this movie.
Yeah. I will say the way that he's framed on the poster really makes it seem like he's the juggler.
Yes.
So I think there's just confusion all the way around
That's
about
funny.
who's actually the juggler and who's like the main villain based on the title and the poster. But you know, it's semantics. I'm like, does this really tell the story we're wanting to tell?
Yeah,
But yeah,
I might at least see if I can get the book and read that monologue from the titular juggler to see if it's kind of the same kind of ham-fisted metaphor
yeah,
that he spouts off in the movie, if there was something a little more. But I will say it does sort of give you just an ounce of sort of pathos for him as you see like what the Bronx looks like at the time, and the sort of like, these rich assholes who are doing what they were doing with the real estate and pushing people out. And yeah, so you can sort of, there's just enough there for you to say, I get it, but you're still, what you're doing is still not the right way to go about airing this grievance. Yeah. Yeah, there's a
yeah.
lot going on in this movie for sure.
Yeah, there's even shades of like high and low in here. We were just talking about Kurosawa earlier with like the wrong person getting kidnapped for ransom, that kind of thing. Yeah, there's a lot here. And then what's also great is that you can just completely turn your brain off if you want to and watch
Totally.
this, because it's like car go fast, lots of guns, like, uh, especially like, I know we'd mentioned Dan Hedaya already, but like that whole sequence where he is chasing Sean with a shotgun and just
Yeah.
shooting in the streets of New York, that is
Yeah.
how did they do that without? I mean, obviously they're not shooting real guns, but like that whole sequence, I'm like, how did they do that?
Yeah, and that's Bryant Park, so that's right behind the main branch of the New York Public Library. So like a place that I enjoy visiting whenever I'm in the city. So I'll never walk through that park again the same way without imagining Dan Hedaya running through there with a massive shotgun.
Man, great stuff.
Were there any other notes about the movie you wanted to bring up that we didn't hit before we talk a little bit about the release itself?
Let's see. Mostly at this point, it's just a couple of quotes that I had when Sean and his daughter are jogging at the beginning of the film. Which, by the way, so many people are jogging in this movie. As it seemed, I don't know what was up with that at the time period, but everyone in
Yeah.
New York City is jogging.
Julie Carmen mentioned it, I think, in the interview. She said, because this was kind of like right like the beginning of the jogging fad, but you even see people jogging kind of like in, I guess, athletic clothes were not really a thing to the extent that they are now. Probably mostly for the better, since we all like kind of look like slobs now. Speaking mostly for myself, but yeah, that was funny. I noticed that too.
Yeah, and even the Gus character uses like the crowd of people jogging as a way for him to steal a car initially and then kind of hide the fact that he's kidnapped the young girl like in the crowd of jogging people. Anyway, a quote that the daughter says to Sean as they're jogging is, he's like telling her, oh, I didn't get a birthday present for you, just kind of jokingly. And she's like, what kind of a punk father are you anyway? And that just kind of sets the tone of the relationship that they have together as like this very like playful, loving father-daughter relationship. And I really appreciated that. And the fact that he got her the 3 hot dogs with a candle for her birthday was just
Yeah, and then also
a
kind of
great
body
character
shames
bit.
her also for how she looks
Yeah,
while
it was
getting
like,
her hot
wait,
dogs.
what are
It's
you
kind of
doing?
messed
You
up,
can't
but
eat these hot dogs.
but he seems like a good dad. His heart's in the right place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Night of the Jogger. It could have been Night of the Jogger.
Night of the
Maybe.
Jogger. That's
All the
it.
jogging. He's basically jogging for the whole movie, even after he broke several bones in his foot in that first. And that was the whole reason why Fury left, was because he thought that the direction of the movie would have to change if Brolin couldn't do all the running and stuff. So he left for that reason. But we still ended up with an amazing movie, which is kind of a miracle if you think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yep. Last thing I was going to mention, my favorite quote of the movie is Dan Hedaya channeling Al Pacino in Heat, or maybe it was the other way around, Al Pacino in Heat channeling Dan Hedaya in this, when he screams, "They can't, your rotten ass!"
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, he's just this thing that he sort of does with his lip and his teeth when he's like really, he's so good. He's so good.
Oh, I wanted to talk about the credits song. They're just singing Night Juggler over the credits.
Yeah,
This weird
thought
disco
that's what
number.
they were saying. Yeah, I thought that's what they were saying. I was like, is that real? Because it wasn't like Night of the Juggler. But
No, it was Night Juggler. I had the captions
Juggler,
on, and they were going like,
yeah.
Night Juggler, Night Juggler.
That's so funny. Yeah, the last gasp of the sort of plot song that you kind of used to get in movies. That's really funny. Yeah, the only other big thing that I had noted that we hadn't talked about too much was just when Brolin goes to the peep show. Just another, a real peep show on 42nd Street. Just this, it's like a sex panopticon with like all these booths of these guys sitting, and you put in a quarter and this window goes up. I thought an extremely funny scene because he's trying to get information out of these dancers who are just like, oh, what do you do? Like he has to keep putting quarters in to finally get the right the right dancer to come over. And the last one, the last one who he talks to before, she looks visibly annoyed that he's not just there to sit there and stare. Like, I have to actually talk to this creep. Like, I don't want to talk to this guy. But I thought that was also a great showcase for the restoration and the work that they did on this movie, because like just the neon lights in there looked amazing. Like the restoration on this is great. It looks so good. I can only imagine that the way people would have seen this movie, which can maybe be our transition into the release itself, like it looks so good. I'm sure most people were watching it on like 16 millimeter beat up prints or who knows what, prior to this, or weird VHS rips.
Yeah.
So really, really great the work that they did to restore this. And I'd be curious to see if the Kino release looked as good, if it was the same restoration and transfer.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know the two releases share a couple of like bonus features in common.
Yeah.
But the Kino release was much more slight. It was just like it didn't have a booklet, posters, any of that stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, like you sort of mentioned it, but I mean, the work that they did on the physical release, it's like everything you want as a person who collects this stuff. Like, it's just the slip box is really sturdy and is beautiful, and the poster is printed on a really nice. I mean, whether you need all the little knickknacks and stuff is, it's about the movie, but they really kind of give you something for your dollar here with everything they put in the nice lobby cards.
Yeah, lots of tangible stuff. Yeah, I love these lobby cards. The quality of these, the quality of the prints on these are fantastic.
Yeah, a nice size.
I'm flipping through them right now. It's like I don't have a practical use for these, but I just enjoy looking at them. Like this shot here, I mean, obviously this is a podcast, so no one's going to be able to see this, but it's a shot from inside of the 42nd Street club that you were just talking about. The neon lights in this photo are fantastic. There's such good grain on here. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Yeah, and the book's nice. I went through the essays, really interesting essays. I watched everything except for the sort of location, kind of like walk through the locations in the city, which I would definitely watch in the future. But it seemed like it would kind of be like maybe the least substantive. I was most interested in hearing from Julie Carmen and James Brolin, because it's always nice when they have people from the movie to talk and it's not just like an appreciation. So I
Yeah.
definitely loved hearing their stories about working on the movie and what they could remember. So the good interviews, and it's always nice when those are new, that they're able to get new interviews with
Mm-hmm.
people and they're willing to. And it was kind of funny. I think he said, like, James Brolin even kind of alluded, like, "You're talking to me about this movie now?" He seemed pleasantly surprised, but like, yeah, it's like it's probably not the movie most people are stopping him to talk about.
Yeah, and both he and Julie Corman were talking about the fact that like not even they have been able to see the movie recently, which just goes to show like how far gone this was, like how far they had to the team behind this restoration had to go to kind of like pull this out of obscurity, because not even the stars had access to it. So you know it's quite interesting that the age we live in now with making all of these accessible, and after these transfers are made, they can live next to you
Yeah.
know the films that they inspired and hopefully get discovered by new viewers. But yeah, I agree with you. The booklet in here is fantastic. There are 3 essays in here that are all very high quality. They even have a director's spotlight in here, which is how I first discovered that there were 2 directors on this movie. Because they go into a little detail on both Sid Fury and Robert Butler. Robert Butler, I came to discover, did shoot a ton of pilots back in the
Yep.
day, including
Pilot
the Star
for
Trek and
yeah.
Batman pilots.
Yeah, the unaired pilot that wasn't aired until the 1980s. Star Trek has kind of a weird history with like which episode was shot first and premiered first and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean he set the tone. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I think Transmission really and Radiance really hit it out of the park with this first release for this line and set a high bar. Stuntman, I'm excited to check out the Stuntman special effects, and the next one look a little slimmer, but I
Mm-hmm.
imagine they're still going to look great on the disc and have some interesting features. So I'm excited to check out more, and it's a easy keeper.
Yep, this one will be a keeper for me as well. Like I said, I'm gonna try to get as many of these as I can now that they've since they've just started putting out these transmission releases. So we'll see how that goes. I have to imagine that as we start collecting more and more of these from this label, there's bound to be a couple of these that are not going to be keepers, but we'll see.
With that, we could move on to letters from friends. Did we get any feedback or letters this week, Josh?
If anyone out there wants to send us a voice message or an email about any of the movies that we've watched recently, whether it's this one, Night of the Juggler, The Cat was our last one, or even anything physical media related, you can reach out to us at blindbuyspod@gmail.com, and we'll be able to listen to that or read it on the air. So we don't have a letter from a friend pertaining to Night of the Juggler, but we do have a voice memo from a very special guest who is going to be on our podcast for the next episode. It's Philip from the Substance Podcast, and he is going to be picking a blind buy from his collection to bring to us, and we're going to talk about it next episode. So we have a message from him here, and I will let him say what he's chosen for us to watch next week.
Hey there, Blind Buys boys. It's your pal Philip. Sadly, first time caller. I had meant to get one in for the cat, but just didn't get it in on time. Sorry about that. It's a great movie. The 88 Films Blu-ray is incredible. And shout out to Screenland Armor here in Kansas City. Got to see it for the first Friday Night Frights of the year. It was an incredible time. So, great pick. Love that episode. But calling in today because you beautiful boys were so kind as to invite me on to be the first guest blind buyer. It's a wonderful hobby that can get expensive sometimes, but I love doing this. My pick, let me go through the mental. I don't know if we've done a noir yet here on Blind Buys, or if you guys have done one yet. My pick is from one of my favorite, if not my favorite director. It's hard to say favorite, but one of my favorite directors of all time, Martin Scorsese says, if you don't like his films, then you don't like cinema. I am picking Sam Fuller's 1972 film, Dead Pigeon on Beethoven Street. I've got the Olive Films Blu-ray. It's one of the few Sam Fuller movies I haven't seen, just because most of his movies are like 80 minutes, but this is just over 2 hours. It's not too long, but for a Fuller movie, it's a little bit long, so I've never sat down for it. I know it gets trippy. I've heard people compare it to Inherent Vice. I'm very excited. The blurb on the back, one of the blurbs says, in a film filled with double crosses, several red herrings, and the quintessential femme fatale, Dead Pigeon on Beethoven Street is a treat for any Sam Fuller fan as well as the uninitiated. I know you guys both have different levels of initiation with Fuller, but he's one of the greats, one of the all-time greats, doesn't get enough attention. So excited to be talking with you very soon about Dead Pigeon on Beethoven Street.
Thanks so much, Philip. Yeah, Philip, one of the great champions of Sam Fuller. He's always beating the drum for Sam Fuller. So I'm excited that he's going to pull us deeper down the rabbit hole with him. And yeah, this is a great title. I love it. Almost sounds like a Giallo title, Dead Pigeon on Beethoven Street. So yeah, Scarecrow has this on VHS in addition to the Blu-ray. I'm kind of tempted to get that VHS, just watch it, see what other trailers might be on there. But yeah,
I think you should watch this on VHS and report back. Because I'll probably be just maybe I'll rent this through Scarecrow through the mail.
I'll let you have the Blu-ray. They won't send the VHS in the mail, so I'll let you have that Blu-ray if you want to get it through the mail.
All right, yeah, I got to get on that. Samuel Fuller, the only one of his that I've seen is 40 Guns, which is actually one of his, I believe, one of his earlier films, and a Western at that. So
yeah, pretty good. It's definitely more straight, I would say, than a lot of his other movies, but still excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you heard it first there from Philip. His pick for our next episode is Dead Pigeon on Beethoven Street. So join us next time on Blind Buys for our first ever guest episode. Philip from the Substance Podcast will be with us, and we will see you then.
Bye, everybody.